Since its inception in 2005, the Ryuga Gotoku franchise has been a cornerstone of Sega's success in Japan. Adapting into various spin-offs, books, and films, the Yakuza franchise has sold nearly 20 million units as of 2023. And while it's become a Japanese cultural phenomenon, the Yakuza series struggled to find success in the Western market until Yakuza 0's release in 2015. How exactly did the Yakuza franchise become a success overseas? Join the Kamurocho Bros as we take a deep dive into the history of the Yakuza franchise in the West. In August 2005, a new Sega project named Project J was hinted at, with an official announcement at the end of the month. The project ended up being Ryuga Gotoku, with producer Toshihiro Nagoshi and his team taking the helm. Before Ryuga Gotoku, Nagoshi's team had developed family-friendly titles such as Super Monkey Ball and F-Zero GX. This new title was a turning point for the studio, as they wanted to reach a more mature audience. Nagoshi was quoted as saying, "For a while now, I've wanted to create a powerful, gritty drama where you feel the sense of humanity. And after a lot of thought, this is the product that we've arrived at." With main protagonist Kazuma Kiryu, Ryuga Gotoku went on to sell more than 1 million copies worldwide, most of it being from Japan. Ryuga Gotoku was officially launched in Japan for the PlayStation 2 on December 8, 2005, with no official Western announcement. On February 23, 2006, Sega of America revealed that it was bringing Ryuga Gotoku to the West. Known now as Yakuza for its Western release, the game was slated to have an English dub and released in summer of that year. Yakuza finally released in the West on September 5, 2006, 10 months after the Japanese launch and a year into the Xbox 360 console launch, which was quickly becoming the console of choice in North American markets, and only 2 months before the PS3 launch. The timing couldn't have been worse, as gamers were already looking into the next generation of hardware. Now, I want to draw back everything for a second and introduce a special guest to the video right quick. For this video, I asked popular Yakuza content creator Devil Leon 7 about his experiences with the first 2 Yakuza games on the PS2. Being a fan of the first game since its release, here's what he had to say about his thoughts on Yakuza 1.
See, we got back from a trip from Saudi Arabia with the family. My dad came to pick us up, and when we got home, he surprised us with a PlayStation 2, a brand new PlayStation 2. One of the games was Yakuza. There were a bunch of other games as well, like Bully. I still remember that for some reason, but Yakuza was among them. Started playing that game, and I was impressed. I was only 12 maybe at the time or something. Not even maybe. But I just loved Yakuza. I thought it was very the combat, the gameplay was fun. The exploration aspect of the game was amazing. There was storytelling, which, as a kid, it would be hard to appreciate most of these things, right? Because you're still you're like, okay, give me the cool stuff. I just want to see the cool stuff. But as time went on, I gradually began to accumulate more and more respect and fondness for the franchise, appreciating different aspects as I grew up.
One thing that makes Yakuza 1 stand out from other games in the series is the fact that the game has an English dub. Something that would not become commonplace in the franchise until Judgment and Yakuza Like a Dragon's release. According to Kevin Frayne, a former localization producer for the Yakuza series, getting big names for the English dub was an absolute must. When we released the original Yakuza, we knew that the game had been a hit in Japan, and we wanted to make sure that we put our best foot forward in releasing a new and unique product to the Western market that would draw just as much acclaim. Getting both big name and cult Hollywood stars in for the English voice recordings was a way for us to get reliable, quality performances, as well as a way for us to try to increase appeal for the audience. In fact, Yakuza's English voice cast was a sight to behold. Michael Madsen from cult classics such as Reservoir Dogs and Sin City was cast to play the role of Futoshi Shimano. Michael Rosenbaum from Smallville was cast as Nishiki, and Mark Hamill from the Star Wars series was cast as Majima, a role that the actor himself would admit online that he doesn't even recall playing.
Generally speaking, with the voice direction of Yakuza 1, they might not have had the best direction at the time, but over time dubs did get better, as we have seen with the recent Yakuza dubs. I think Mark Hamill did pretty good for what he had to work with, most likely, and as a a lot of people might know. With Yakuza 7, they brought back certain voice actors for certain characters from Yakuza 1. Unfortunately, Mark Hamill was not one of them, which is very unfortunate. Would have been really nice to see him return. But, it is what it is. I thought he did a great job. Yeah, I think a lot of people enjoyed his Yakuza 1 dub in general, so no complaints from me.
Stupid! Fucking motherfucker!
Sega truly had an all-star cast for this title, and wanted it to be a major success. Surely it couldn't fail, right? Well, this is where the first of the problems arose. The reveal for Yakuza in the West was met with skepticism as the debut trailer for the title hit the market. Kevin Frame was quoted as saying, "The first trailer for the game, released by our Japan office, was constructed using an old scratch track." This made the rounds fairly quickly across gaming fan sites, highlighting what was considered poor quality. But this trailer actually wasn't at all representative of the voice quality of the finished product. The damage had already been done though for the most part, and so a lot of fans probably still don't realize that. For all the problems that the title had before release, there were even more problems after the official Western launch of the game. While the game was met with mostly positive reviews from critics, the consumers were not as satisfied. Yakuza was met with clunky controls and a lukewarm response to the English dub. The technical limitations of the DVD disc format made it impossible for the team to put both the English and Japanese audio tracks in the game. Not only that, the dub was also criticized for being too edgy.
I hear she's hot. Everyone's jealous of you. I know I'd like to nail a bitch like that. Bring that shit, Kazuma! 10 years in the joint made you a fucking pussy!
As you can probably tell, localization for Yakuza was made so that swearing would be introduced in sections of the dialogue where it never existed in the Japanese release. In fact, the localization team was encouraged to add as many expletives as possible. In addition to the changes to the script and the localization process, some character names were changed as well, most notably Shintaro Kazama's name becoming Shintaro Fuma in the final English release. Why was this change made? It's speculated that it could have been a mistranslation, as the Japanese kanji for Kazama can be read as Fuma. Other speculation consists of the names Kazuma and Kazama conflicting with one another. Neither of these reasons have been confirmed by any of the localization producers. There was also a stigma that started soon as the release of Yakuza in the West that pegged the game simply as Grand Theft Auto in Japan. To this day, many people in news outlets such as IGN constantly make this comparison. Is it fair? Well, we definitely don't think so.
Maybe to an extent, realistically speaking, you can see the comparisons and where they draw out. Like, you play as a gangster person, you might fight people, you might, but I feel like that's the extent of the similarities. Other than that, you play as a reformed gangster for most of the games, Kiryu Kazuma. He's trying to leave that life behind and work towards being a better person and just move on. Whereas in GTA, now, I didn't finish most of the GTA games, but I did finish GTA 5, where I think, who was it, Michael? He was a former, bank robber? Something you still have ideas similar to Yakuza, where one of them might want to leave that life behind, but it's still it's a story filled with a lot of satire and comedy, dark kind of comedy, whereas Yakuza, at least within the story, really tries to take itself seriously and tries to tell this narrative about human relations and how people can actually change and so on and so forth. It's a very serious game. I know that's a meme, but we'll talk about that later, maybe.
Even after a very aggressive web and print advertising campaign by Sega, the release of Yakuza went under the radar, failing to reach the top 20 MPD. Needless to say, Yakuza's release was a bit of a letdown for Sega of America, as the franchise was off to a slow start in the West. Why do you think the first Yakuza game on PS2 didn't sell well in the West?
Oh boy. See, at the time, of course, it was a brand new franchise. Trying to sell a brand new franchise, I imagine, would be a challenge to any game company that's trying to push the product out, right? You have to try to think of what would attract the customers that you want to attract. You have to probably set a big budget for marketing and all that. I don't really know the entire process that goes into this, but I imagine it's really not easy. But I think because with the Yakuza, maybe because they thought the West really loved violence, the best thing to compare it to would probably be GTA. So I think I don't remember exactly who was it that said that. Maybe it was IGN in a review or something, but you know, you have that infamous, it's like Japanese GTA, blah, blah, blah. I think that was kind of an unfortunate stain on how Yakuza 1 was marketed. And it took a long time for the series to be known for what it is and to be recognized as to, you know, just what it offers. It's kind of unique. It's not like, you know, when you play GTA, you get a different experience. When you play Yakuza games, you get a different experience as well. They're not the same. It took like until what, Yakuza 0, which came out in 2017 for us, 2015 in Japan. So it took 2 whole years for us to get it. And when that game blew up, I think, again, one of the best things to happen to the series. And I think when that happened, people slowly started to understand that, you know, Yakuza really is its own thing. It's not like it's not like GTA. Maybe it shares some aspects, like I said, you know, organized crime and criminal characters, stuff like that. But I think GTA and Yakuza both try to achieve very different things, and they both have their audiences.
Despite the problems with its reception in the West, the Ryuga Gotoku franchise kept up a strong pace in Japan after the release of the first game. On August 30th, 2006, just days before the release of Yakuza 1 in North America, Ryuga Gotoku 2 was announced in Famitsu. According to Nagoshi in the Famitsu article, the game was aimed to provide a more dramatic storyline than the first game, an adult love story, and an improvement on every single gameplay front from the original title. While excitement was high in Japan for the sequel, things were quiet on the Western front. Ryuga Gotoku 2 was released in Japan for the PlayStation 2 on December 7, 2006. The game would sell great in RGG's home market, selling more than 130,000 copies by the end of 2008, and 830,000 copies sold in its lifetime. Through the end of 2006 and into the end of 2007, there was no word from Sega of America about Yakuza 2 getting a proper localized release in the West. Then, at Tokyo Game Show 2007, Sega USA made an announcement that Yakuza 2 was coming to the West, but had no release date details, leaving fans in the dark. By March of 2008, a spin-off of the Ryuga Gotoku series titled Ryuga Gotoku Kenzan had released from Japan for the PlayStation 3. Of course, there was no word of this game coming to the West, let alone Yakuza 2's Western release. Then finally, on March 26, 2008, a glimmer of hope appeared for the series as Yakuza 2 was announced for a European release later that year via a press release. The localization would be done by Sega Europe with no mention of Sega USA. The marketing and localization for this title would be drastically different from the first game. Unlike the initial announcement for the Western release of Yakuza 1, Yakuza 2's announcement was hardly covered by gaming outlets and press. In fact, the official announcement for a release in the US by Sega USA didn't come until June 2008.
I was on YouTube, okay, and like I don't even know how I found it, but I saw a trailer, I think, and I didn't really understand what was going on at the time. I thought like it was a part of Yakuza 1 that I still didn't unlock or some kind of thing. But no, I was looking at the trailer for Yakuza 2, and ever since I saw that one trailer, I was kind of like really hooked. I don't remember exactly how I came to find or like, I guess just play the game, but I knew that there was a second Yakuza game, and next thing I know, I was playing it.
It was also announced soon after that Yakuza 2 would not be receiving an English dub, instead keeping the original Japanese voice acting audio intact for the Western release, providing English subtitles for the audience. According to Kevin Frame, the change to the Japanese audio was due in part to the outcry of fans. When Yakuza was released in the US without a Japanese voice track, there was actually a significant fan outcry. Obviously, this was a very Japanese game, set in Japan and dealing heavily with Japanese culture, and quite a lot of people thought that not having the original Japanese dialogue affected the game's sense of authenticity. We definitely took that fan reaction into account when making the ultimate decision to go ahead with a Japanese voice track for Yakuza 2.
I remember being weirded out a little bit, because I think at the time I still didn't fully understand that. I mean, I don't know, honestly. Like, when you're a kid, there's a lot of stuff that goes over your head, right?
Right.
Just, I think going from Yakuza 1, which was dubbed, and then going to Yakuza 2, and then hearing Japanese voices, it did kind of, you know, I was weirded out a little bit, but it didn't take long for me to understand that, it's originally a Japanese game. I think people in general just preferred the Japanese dub even back in the day because you're getting the original experience in a way. You're getting to hear the characters speak as they would speak. And having English voices on Japanese characters, understandably does seem weird to some people. It's still just a matter of choice. Some people don't mind using dubs because that allows them to just hear what's going on without having to look at subtitles. And there's people who they prefer to hear people speak the original language, and that's just how they want to experience the game, and there's nothing wrong with either.
公務執行妨害のおまけ付きや。
Yakuza 2 finally released for North America on September 9th, 2008. While reception to the game was positive as reviewers praised the improved combat system and new, more faithful localization process, the game still did not perform well on gaming charts. Yakuza 2 reportedly sold less than 40,000 copies in its first week and fell well under the radar. Of course, Yakuza 2's localization process did not cost nearly as much as the first game's. This new low-cost, high-profit approach probably made the release a bit easier for Sega of America to manage. However, the question arose, what's next for the Yakuza series in the West? The series had made the jump to the PlayStation 3 with a spin-off game release and a direct sequel, Ryuga Gotoku 3, getting ready to launch for the PlayStation 3 in Japan. Would these titles see the light of day, or would Sega of America not have enough confidence in the series to maintain a solid release schedule for the West? Hey, thanks so much for watching this video. It took a lot of time and research to gather the information that I needed to get this done. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like and subscribe to us here at Kamurocho Bros. Let us know below if you would like to see more of the series as we cover more of the history of Yakuza in the West. We have more RGG Studios content on the way, and we hope you'll join us for the ride. Thank you again and have a wonderful day.